Welcome to Unit 2. In this unit, we're going to be talking about the Enlightenment and a few revolutions. For this presentation, I am going to ask you to take some notes on one slide, so please go ahead and get out a piece of paper. You can title that piece of paper Unit 2 Introduction, set it up for regular notes. It's going to be very short notes, but it'll be a little bit of just intro into your assignment for today. And again, title it Unit 2 Introduction. So what are we going to be looking at in this unit? We're going to start with our course and unit question. You guys should be familiar with our course question, which reads as follows. Over the last several centuries, how did ideas such as equality, the protection of rights, nationalism, socialism, and democracy clash to form the world we live in today? And our unit question we're going to be exploring is how and why did power go from being centralized in the hands of a few to being decentralized in democratic systems? What was the result of the move to democratic systems? And so as you can see from our course question, we're really going to be focusing on democracy. But we will also be touching on equality and the protection of rights. So what will we cover in this unit? In this unit, we're going to start by covering an era called the Enlightenment, where philosophers like Jean-Jacques Rousseau, John Locke, and Thomas Hobbes, as well as many others, started to challenge established traditions and norms with new ideas about how society should be run, about how people should behave towards each other, and just about generally the nature of humanity, of human beings. From there, we're going to go on and we're going to talk about the American Revolution a little bit, with a special focus on the writing and ratification of the American Constitution and the American Bill of Rights. And we're going to try to see how those Enlightenment ideas from those philosophers we just looked at came into play in the writing of the American Constitution and the Bill of Rights. From there, we're going to move away from America and we're going to go where we're going to spend most of our time in this unit, and that is to France. We're going to be covering the French Revolution in pretty great detail. And the thing that's interesting about the French Revolution is that it starts in a very civil manner, as you can see here in this picture, but very rapidly moves to something totally different, to the point where we get severed heads being paraded around the city on pikes. We get hasty trials of prisoners, where executions follow within minutes of the trial. Trials, as you can see here, done out in town squares so they could try as many people as possible. And all the way to the point where the king of France is beheaded in front of a crowd with his head held out for all to see. So we're going to have a little comparison of revolutions here as well, looking at the American Revolution and the French Revolution. They're both democratic revolutions, but they're very different in how they are carried out and in their outcomes. So, notes. As I said, we are going to take one slide of notes here, and this is that slide. And so we're going to talk about the Enlightenment. Our first topic that you guys are going to be reading about a little bit later today in a few minutes is this era called the Enlightenment. And so you can just, for your black heading over on the left-hand side, or your heading on the left-hand side of your page, you can just call it the Enlightenment. And we'll go through a few definitions and why it matters real quick. So first, what is it? What is the Enlightenment? The Enlightenment is also known as the Age of Reason. And it's an era when new ideas began to challenge old ways. There was a big focus on reason being used to justify one's beliefs and how society would run. And in a lot of ways, it's an era of the spreading of ideas. New ideas were being developed by different thinkers, by different philosophers who you will read about in your assignment in a little while. And those ideas were spread and they were talked about. They were discussed, as we can see in this picture here, often in rich people's living rooms. And new ideas were exciting, and people wanted to hear the newest and latest ideas about the nature of human beings, about how governments should be run, and so forth. And so it was all new. It was something that had not been done before. Knowledge before the age of the Enlightenment was something that was held tightly by a select few. In the Age of Enlightenment, we start to see it kind of spreading to more and more people, and a lot of curiosity about new ideas out there. So when was it? When did the Enlightenment happen? It happened roughly from kind of the mid to early 1600s and then through the late 1700s. So it's a period of 150 or so years, give or take a little bit. Why is it important? Why do we care about this? The age of the Enlightenment is important because the ideas that were developed by many of the philosophers that we will read about undermined the authority of the church and of monarchies. They started to really ask questions. Why is this person in power? What gives a monarch or a king his power? Is that power legitimate? What is the true legitimate source of power? And for a very long time, kings had made the claim that their power came from God. It's an idea called divine right, that their power came from God. Now, these Enlightenment philosophers are starting to ask, does it really? Where's your proof? Could it come from somewhere else? And as more and more people start to question the authority of kings, the authority of the church, that solid hold that those institutions had on Europe especially, but later other places around the world, started to be shaken. Also, because there was a big focus on reason, as we have talked about, there was also a new focus on science. The scientific method is a method of reason, where you reason your way through a problem and you come to a conclusion based on the facts, not based on what you want to see, but based on the facts. And so ultimately, all of these things led to the toppling of several different governments, and for the purposes of this unit, the most notable one will be the absolute monarchy of France. It was the strongest absolute monarchy in Europe, with the most powerful king in Europe, and the people of France started to question, why does this person hold so much power? And ultimately, they took that power away with various kinds of consequences, good and bad. So, if you missed any of that, this video will be posted on my website. You can go back and review it if you want to catch anything that you may have missed along the way. But let's continue on to your assignment. So for today and due tomorrow, I am asking you to read and take notes on Chapter 2, Section 1, which is called Philosophy in the Age of Reason. It goes from pages 54 to 58. You'll have the rest of the period today to work on this, and it will be due on Tuesday at the beginning of the period. Now, when I passed back your notes last week, since we're still sort of in the getting to know each other phase and figuring out expectations, I left a lot of notes or a lot of little notations on your notes as to where you were missing things, missing summaries or various different things, or kind of how you should have your notes set up. And so if you got some of those comments from me, excuse me, or you just want to kind of review what notes should look like, I will direct you to my website. Now you would go, this is our sheet for Unit 2, so you would go to the World History Unit 2 link on the pull-down menu. And when you go there, you will see that our first task is these introduction notes. The second task is the Philosophy in the Age of Reason reading notes. Tells you where to go right here, Chapter 2, Section 1. And then below it is a link to my note-taking guide that I made. So if you forget exactly how to set things up, go and just take a look at this link, and it will tell you exactly what you need to do and exactly how to set up your notes so that you can make sure you get all the points. Don't lose points for formatting issues or for just forgetting easy things like summaries. Okay, so that is it for this video, and now you guys are off to read and take notes on Chapter 2, Section 1, and we will start to talk about that